I am really pleased to welcome back a friend of the program, Andy Cahan, who's has got a great book called The Most Famous Musician You've Never Heard Of. Because I think this title is sort of true because, my God, you've been in so many amazing groups, bands, with great musicians all of your career. So tell me a little bit about the book.
Well, it's very interesting because I saved all my archives. I'm a pack rat. So every contract, letter, postcard, sticker, album, tape, everything of my life I saved. So I spent 4 years scanning all the pictures and flyers and everything, and every picture tells a story. So I was able to literally write the book, and I try to put it in order, and it's been doing very well. I've got several dozen wonderful 5-star reviews on Amazon, and people are loving it, so I'm very excited about it.
It's not just kind of your story, but really it's a history of great rock and roll.
It is. It is. I mean, we're talking Jimi Hendrix, Frank Zappa, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Seals and Croft, Dr. John, Harry Nilsson, Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Eric Carmen. I mean, the list goes on forever.
And you were involved in the making of some of the greatest music ever recorded. And that must be, when you look back at your archives, you must go, wow, you must pinch yourself. That's incredible.
I know. I mean, just to be in the same room with Little Richard and Chuck Berry, rehearsing their hits on an upright piano backstage at the Grammys, and being over Ringo Starr's house with Harry Nilsson and singing, "Listen for your footsteps," and doing all these amazing things in my life. So I said, this got to be documented.
Well, what I like, I mean, because you are a pack rat, and because you've saved so much of this, like all of the stories in here, you back up with all of the material. It's like, a lot of people can write a book and say, oh, I did this, and that, but you have got the proof.
I've got the proof, yeah. And it's great. There's links, to all the YouTube videos of, all the shows I did, the Grammys. And it's really fun stuff. It really is. It's a great book.
Talk a little bit about, I mean, you just mentioned like you were backstage with Little Richard and Chuck Berry, but tell a couple of stories about just being with, I mean, it's hard to pick from the list of musicians you have here, but give us a couple of fun behind-the-scenes tidbits.
Okay, back in 1968, when I moved to California, I had a premonition that a Beatle was over my house, and he had his shoes off, and he was sitting next to me. So later on in 1992, Harry Nilsson brings Ringo Starr over to my house, and it was 100 degrees out, and we turned off the air because we didn't want to get it on the mic for Ringo to do a narration for children's stories.
Okay.
Anyways, so Ringo takes his shoes off, and he sits right next to me. So that premonition that a Beatle was in my house
33 years later.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, and Ringo was like the most wonderful guy in the world.
Now, when you moved to California in the 60s, do you have your sights set on getting, your feet into the music business and getting involved with these kinds of characters?
Yeah, it was a strange coincidence. My mom was really good friends with Irwin Garr, who started his own record company called Pulsar Records, a subsidiary of Mercury Records. And Irwin hired me as a gopher, $35 a week, take the pictures, drive the musicians to the gigs and the recording sessions, and get the coffee and do the Xerox and all that. So Graham Bond was one of the artists on the label, and he had the Graham Bond organization with Ginger Baker and Jack Bruce before the Cream.
Okay.
So he had a blues band. So he came and brought the Mellotron to the United States. It's a keyboard instrument with tape loops. So a flute is recorded onto each note, and it was a very state-of-the-art thing for 1968. Anyway, so he invited me to a recording session, and Mitch Mitchell was on the drums. Jack Cassidy from the Airplane was on bass. Lowell George, Little Feat, was on flute. Graham was on the organ, and I was setting up my electric harpsichord that went through a Leslie speaker, and I felt something behind me, and I turn around, and in walks Jimi Hendrix with two blonde chicks, one holding his amp and one holding his guitar. And he walked in, and he sat up right next to me.
Wow.
And we did the blues in A for 2 hours, and I was 20 years old.
Where can people get this book? Because I know they're going to want to get it.
Well, it's really easy to get because all you have to do is Google the most famous musician you never heard of. If you Google that, I'll come right up.
If you're a rock and roll fan, this is an indispensable addition to your library. Andy, always a pleasure having the program.
Oh, well, thank you
Good to
so
see you.
much, Patrick.
Anytime, anytime. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. You're welcome.